Hey guys, it's Maria, and today I'm going to be covering the topic of college rejection, which I know sounds like a bummer, and it really is. It can be really, sad and heartbreaking and terrible, but I think it's also, a realistic thing that happens when you're applying to colleges, especially for me. I was applying to a lot of top colleges, which had, sub 20% acceptance rates, which I knew was going to be, really sad for me, but I still did it anyway, so I'll be going over the topic of how to prepare yourself for rejection once you finally get it, all that good stuff. So here you see on the screen is the rejection letter I received from Scripps College and from the Claremont Consortium. So I early decision to Scripps. I loved the school so much. I watched all the YouTube vlogs, read every single possible thing on the internet about it, imagined myself so intensely there, stalked student organizations on Instagram, totally perfectly completely imagined my life there. And when I received this rejection letter, it was heartbreaking. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was just so shocked and then so disappointed, immeasurably disappointed. My life will never recover from this type of sadness. And I think that's a totally natural, realistic response to that. It is really sad because you spend so much time applying to these schools and you pour your heart and soul out and you imagine yourself at these campuses, otherwise you wouldn't apply in the first place, right? You talk about how much you love these schools in your application. You're literally, your entire application is, I can see myself at this school and here's why. I love this school because of all these reasons. And so when the admissions committee decides that you actually when the admissions committee decides that actually they think you don't fit there or they don't think you belong there, that's really heartbreaking. That's terrible. And so I just wanted to go over some advice, some words of wisdom that hopefully might make you feel better about this rejection process. It's a grieving process. It's a whole thing. So at least for me personally, I applied to, oh my god, I can't remember, I think about 12 schools, and this was only a year ago for me. I can barely remember how many schools I applied to. I think I applied to 12 schools, most of which were really competitive, sub 20% acceptance rates, and I got rejected from 9 of them, leaving 2 safety schools and USC, my absolute dream school. So I was one of the lucky ones in this admissions process. But, I was rejected from my early decision 1, early decision 2, rejected from every single, regular decision school, except USC, which was my last result to come out. Until then, I got rejection after rejection, doors slammed in my face from November until, March. That was devastating for me. That entire winter was so depressing because every time I opened the email, got your admissions decision is waiting for you in your portal, open the portal, rejection, we're sorry to inform you, all these really depressing, really sad things. And so first I just want to be real and acknowledge that I have been through a ton of college rejection, and it sucks, truly. Your pain is entirely justified if you haven't been if you haven't applied to any colleges yet, you put your heart out on a line for the school when you apply to it, and then the other side decides that they actually don't want you. That's really hurtful. And so even if you haven't been rejected from any schools yet, you obviously recognize that that's a very real probability that you may be rejected, and it's really tough. So I wanted to offer some reconciliation. So first, do not blame yourself. There's what ifs of, I could have, what if I wrote a different essay? Maybe I could have scored 10 points higher on the SAT. Maybe if I had just worked a little harder in that class and gotten a slightly better letter of recommendation. Do not beat yourself up for it. It is not your fault. It's truly, genuinely, as much as I can say, not your fault to get rejected from a school. And you may be wondering, well, of course it is. I submitted this application. I, could have done better in these classes. And yes, maybe you could have. But there's also a really important component to college admissions that I think a lot of people forget, and that's really about fit. So you've worked extremely hard in high school, or maybe you haven't, but it's all right. The past is in the past. Like, really, like stressing yourself out, like hating yourself for not working harder or not doing better in these components is not going to make yourself feel better. Just, acknowledge it, let it go. All that, like, self-improvement thing, all those self-improvement things. But there's also fit in college, and it's it's difficult because it's really a two-way street, right? You apply to a college because you think you fit there, you think you can see yourself there, and the other side being, like, college admissions counselors have to agree, have to be like, yeah, I can see them there. And like sometimes your judgment about how you see yourself there is, like, doesn't reflect back on the other side, and that's really difficult. But to get over, like, my many rejections, I considered that maybe I didn't see the full picture. When you're applying to college, like, really truly all they show you is, like, the good parts, right? Like, look at this college brochure, we have all these amazing dining hall food, look at all these super happy students, we have a Quidditch team, like all the traditional, like, college advertisements. But there's also, like, the other side of, the academics can be really challenging. The weather here kind of sucks, actually. Sometimes it's really hot or really cold. Students here can be kind of stressed out sometimes, and it's not always, like, the most fun place in the world. So it's like, as much as I, like, don't want to say, it's kind of like, it's kind of like dating, or like, like making friends or anything, like it's kind of like applying as, like, your honeymoon stage of, like, everything I see in the school is, like, perfect. But you, like, once you go to school, and I can confirm, USC, like, definitely was my dream school, and I was, like, so happy I got in. I'm still really grateful and happy that I'm here. But there's also components that once you get there as an actual student, like it's not always, like, super glamorous or fun all the time. Like, school is work, academics can be really hard and stressful, and sometimes, like, even your dream school can, like, get kind of stressful, and, like, kind of stressful sometimes. So schools aren't perfect as much as people aren't perfect, and, like, a school that you may have thought that you fit at may actually not be your perfect fit, and that school honestly might have just, like, saved you a little bit from, like, the hassle and the pain of, like, really struggling to, like, fit in with the student culture there, with, like, avoiding, like, terrible weather, or like, really, like, a high stress environment or something. Like, any one of those factors kind of, like, I guess just, like, saving yourself from a lot more, like, pain and heartbreak that you would have experienced if you had gone in and then really struggled for, like, 4 straight years there. So in some ways, colleges are, like, saving you from that, like increased devastation. As much as, like, rejections just, like, suck, frankly, and, like, in all, like, absoluteness of everything, like, rejection just, like, is terrible in whatever form, and especially in college admissions when there is so much pressure to get into a quote-unquote good school. Like, that school actually might have saved you from, like, really struggling. So hopefully that's a more optimistic way of looking at it. And the next thing is that a school is not the make or break moment for your job, your career, your major, like, your life, anything like that. As much as it feels like it is, especially in high school, when you're envisioning yourself on these college campuses, like, you see, like, your at least for me, this is how I imagine it, you see your career and your life, like, directly in front of you. Like, I'll go to this school, I'll get this job right after, I'm set for life, all this stuff. And so when one roadblock on your life plan gets wrecked, it's terrible. You're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do now. But what you do at an institution is so much more important than what institution you're at. I'm not from personal experience, but there are people, who go to Ivy League schools and they don't, like, honestly do anything. And yes, they have, like, that name and, like, that fancy prestige and maybe, like, alumni network and everything on their resume, but, like, maybe they didn't work that hard. They didn't involve themselves. They didn't really get any experience anywhere. So in the end, all they had was that name and, like, that name on their diploma, and that was it. Versus someone who got rejected from, like, all these schools and worked super hard, got all the internships and experience and letters of recommendation, and, like, passion in their classes and explore their interests, and they're much more qualified and much more well off at the end of the day, like doing like everything at their institution and working really hard to make the most of the resources you have versus arriving at a school and doing nothing and trying to hope that that name might carry you forward. Because as much as like a fancy name, or even like someone who goes to Harvard, as much as like, Harvard is like, oh, whoa, wait, it doesn't carry as much weight as, like actual experience, skills you've developed, the connections that you've made with the people around you. Like, the name only goes so far, and after a certain extent, it's ultimately up to the student. So the institution that you attend isn't going to wreck your future, isn't going to like destroy any hopes or dreams that you might have had. It's basically just going to set you on an alternate path. It will still, if you want to get somewhere, it will take you there eventually. There just might be some more turns and twists in the road, but you'll still get there. I'm trying not to make this into like a super like cheesy, like abstract motivational speech, but like truly, like you will get there in the end. Your institution does not define you as long as you want to work towards your goals. And yeah, as long as you want to work towards your goals, you will get there somehow, some way, in some time. It will happen. And in one university or college that you attend is not going to make or break that dream. I can promise you that. So, in conclusion, don't blame yourself for getting rejected, or don't be afraid to apply to a school because you're convinced that you're going to be rejected, because what else do you have to lose? So many of the schools on my list, on my college list, were like total like shot in the dark. Like, I'll never get it in a million years. My school used Navient, so we had scatter plots with GPA and SAT score, and we could see where we ranged on that field in terms of competitiveness, and I was pretty much always in the like straight rejection field, for exactly every school. But somehow I made it on the USC scattergram. I was surrounded by like red X's, rejections everywhere, and somehow I made it. Like, I did it somehow when every other school that I applied to that I thought had similar cultures like said no to me. So it is possible. Like, shot in the dark, nothing to lose, except maybe like $80 in an application fee. But don't apply to like schools that you hate or like don't want to go to just for like prestige. But yeah, you truly have nothing to lose in applying to these schools. Like, rejection is terrible and it hurts and it's painful, but getting rejected is better than never knowing, right? So with all that in mind, don't beat yourself up for rejection, and don't let the fear of rejection stop you from trying or exploring new things, because like rejection carries on, like seriously, even beyond college applications. So, after that like terrible rejection cycle in high school, I was like, oh my God, okay, at least it's finally over. And then I get to college and suddenly I'm rejected from like student organizations or like volunteering clubs that I wanted to be a part of. Like, there were like harsh applications at interviews. Like, I got rejected from those things, and that sucked. Or I got rejected from on-campus leadership positions. I got rejected for internships. I got rejected for on-campus jobs. Like, rejection follows you anywhere and everywhere, especially beyond college applications when you're suddenly applying to like jobs and like clubs and like literally everything. And it's like, it's really exhausting. It sucks more. It sucks just as much as college applications when you're rejected. So college applications, with the harshness I feel of the rejections, can almost prepare you for, honestly, the inevitable rejections you'll face later in your life, and kind of toughen you up and like keep pushing, keep moving on. Also, as someone who wants to go into higher education, specifically the admissions field, just know that the people reading your application are very human. I'll link a blog post later, hopefully in the description, of an MIT college admissions blog website where an MIT admissions counselor describes how the job is it's more than a job of, I'm just paraphrasing here, but college admissions counselors are human. They read your stories. They are really empathetic people. Otherwise they wouldn't be doing this job, and they care a lot. And, they feel just as heartbroken as you do when they have to reject you, because class sizes are, like, just inevitable constraints, and it's difficult. You could fill a class in a college with 2 or 3 other classes with completely different people, and they would all be equally qualified. But, like, some people are just rejected and some are accepted, and, like, that's life. So rejection is painful. It's really messy. I'm sorry, I'm starting to, like, sound like a, like, relationship counselor here, but, college rejection is really painful, and I've experienced that firsthand, and then I've also experienced it, beyond college. I was one of the lucky ones who managed to get into my dream school, but, like, it was still difficult after that. Like, my life didn't get any easier after I got into my dream school. It actually, I think, got a little more difficult because, like, I was suddenly facing rejections everywhere around me, because I was at the school with a bunch of really, like, incredibly smart people around me, and it was hard not to feel, like, imposter syndrome and, like, all these other things, which I, like, will describe in, like, a feature video on, the real, like, reality of college. But, like, rejection sucks, and it will carry on, like, truly, like, well into your future. So, as much as it hurts right now, it also is a temporary thing, like, that winter, between, like, November and, like, March, when I was rejected from 9 schools, like, that really hurt, like, that was a lot. But, like, like, looking back on that, like, more than a year from now, I honestly can barely remember that. Like, I do remember feeling, like, devastated, and, like, it still kind of stains when I think about it, but I'm also able to, like, move on from that. My life would be drastically different if I went to a different school, but maybe not necessarily for the better. And, I am where I am, I guess, is the best way to put it. To just be present and, like, acknowledge that pain. Again, sorry, trying not to sound like a therapist or anything, but, like, acknowledging the harshness of that reality, but also being able to, like, like, get over it, overcome it, and really just kind of be at peace with it. So I just wanted to make this video to empathize and to say that college rejection truly terribly does suck in, like, the worst ways possible. But it's also one of, like, I'm sorry to say, but, like a huge cycle of rejections that you'll face later on in your life. So as much as the pain is terrible right now, the best thing I can say is that it's not your fault. Like, fitting in at a college is also an important part, and maybe that college might have spared you from some further pain of not fitting in and really struggling academically, socially, whatever it may be. And, like, this rejection, although as much as it stings, may will actually make you a tougher person in the future when you inevitably get rejected from something else, and you're able to, like brush it off, dust it off, move on, move forward, and continue being a really, like persevering, like, individual who's able to still do all the things they wanted to do, just on a slightly different path. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and good luck. I hope you don't get too many rejections, but if you do, I hope you'll be able to overcome it.